Hey Jeff.
Hey, what's going on? How are you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you doing?
I can't complain. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for joining this little informal chat
Of course.
about you and all you do and the work we've done together. I'm very excited to see you
Yeah.
again in a Zoom.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome. So hey, let's jump right in. We, started making videos during the pandemic. The first one, we've done 3 total. You were gracious enough to edit like you do, which was basically me with my, phone and taking selfie videos every day. You're nice enough to edit that. We know what the artistic value of that one was. It was pretty limited because it was March, 2020. Then in May and June, we put together this hybrid video for Honest, which was some live footage, some more selfie footage of me, and then some footage that you shot, which was very nice to have a video for that song. But our third and final masterpiece of 2020, finished in 2021, is for Alone, which came out this year and earlier this year. And I would just love to jump into what that process was like for you and I. There's so much to talk about. I don't know where we should begin.
Well, it's interesting. It's good that you mentioned the other 2 videos because it was kind of like a build-up process to Alone, just kind of getting, for lack of a better term, not like used to each other, but it's like, oh, let's understand each other's styles, our work habits, all that stuff. So being able to edit beforehand, the other videos that you were able to shoot by yourself on the phone, we were able to build a rapport that way. So by the time we got to the Alone shoot, we already had a bit of a shorthand that only amplified the more we went on with Alone. And so it was good to have that, because to jump into any project cold with anybody, you're always going to have that kind of build up process, getting to know one another, getting to understand each other's styles and stuff like that. So we had that, albeit digitally, but we still had that before we were able to kind of get going and work on Alone, which was a huge advantage.
Yeah, I felt that as well. And just knowing a little bit what the process was like and putting a video together, particularly with a filmmaker, which I'd never, I hadn't done it in a really long time, let's put it that way. But never worked with someone quite such as yourself who has such technical knowledge, but also is so profoundly artistic, which I really loved working with you for both of those reasons. You shoot, you edit, but you also have this keen artistic eye, which I, absolutely love. So,
well, thank you. But that's what was fun about like really going into Alone because we had so many of our, pre-production meetings, and we were able to talk about things we were influenced by. So kicking back and forth anything artistically without thinking anything technical first. It was always a kind of vibe or style, or just talking about novels, which I love, talking about musicians, which I'm not as familiar with you. So it was great to kind of like pull from that. And then I can talk about some directors, and we kind of brought all of that together as putting the ingredients in the pot for Alone and mixing it up and finding what the inspiration was for the visual of it. We knew what it was from your standpoint, from the song and the beautiful lyrics, but we needed to build from the visual. And that's where kind of having these 2, like a tennis match of artistic backgrounds going back and forth to build off that, and yeah, that I just, being able to just talk about film in general, even without doing a project, is always a joy to me. So it was nice to build off of that.
Yeah, and it was definitely a joy for me as well. I'm a big movie fan, but I have very, very limited knowledge of it. So it was nice to have you talk me off the ledge at times. Like, well, I don't quite know if that would work, but but it's funny that you mentioned also books, because this book that's sort of on my inspiration shelf here, where the Crawdads Sing, where a lot of the theme of, nature as, as your caretaker, like being in nature's embrace, was one of the central themes I felt of the Alone video that we agreed on, which we were able to express within 3 different shoots.
Yeah.
And 3 different characters, if you will, 3 different, sort of takes on the situation. So maybe you could talk a little bit about the locations, and how that all fed off for you, artistically, but technically as well.
Absolutely. And that was the biggest thing, going off of that novel. And then also, if you remember, there was a lot of discussions, which makes sense. One of my favorite filmmakers is Andrei Tarkovsky, and who's this poet filmmaker that deals a lot with just straight visuals and how he incorporates that into his narrative. And so we had those 2 jumping off of. So that in the back of my mind, going into our locations, was such an inspiration. And once I got to the locations, I think the biggest thing, it's not, once you're in a setting, it's not necessarily like everything you take you want to throw out the window, because you got to be ready for whatever is there, and being able to kind of, adapt. But we had all this inspiration, but now we also have the location. So it's like, don't just lean on that novel or Tarkovsky, utilize it as a foundation, but now kind of fall into where we were with each location, with each character. And that's where it's like, we had this beautiful environment to work on, just the landscapes, the water, the trees, the color schemes were fantastic. So it fed into the character, it fed into the shooting of it. And then we go elsewhere into like our industrial spaces and waterfall spaces, and every little element just really fed into what we try to portray here with this storyline, and the beauty within, the chaos within, and the mixture of all those worlds coming together.
Yeah, I would agree with that also. Just, we started with some inspiration, and definitely made it our own,
Mm-hmm.
in each place. And it was really a thrill for me to sort of really dig into, all the different, themes and looks and just aspects of the theme of isolation,
Yeah.
and how it, you're never really, it was funny because we did play around with this a little bit. You're never really alone because, you're in nature, and nature is, as we said, is like Mother Earth, if you will, without getting, too artsy about it. But as was, talked about in the book, but also, shooting this video in a pandemic,
Right.
which was crazy. I mean, we were guerrilla style that first shoot, just you, myself, and Ed Martin.
Yeah.
We were like the 3. We had a little help from Chelsea, but we're all socially distant. We're wearing masks. I'm like, eek, I'm gonna take off my mask in front of you guys.
Oh.
Like, stay over there.
Yeah.
We're outside, but just all these little things that kind of, I felt, fed into the emotional life, really, of each shoot, because it was still very much on our minds. So it did add this other little layer of tension, I felt.
Yeah. Totally.
So,
And then when we're out, oh, you cracked up. You still there?
like,
There you are. Yeah. And then when we're out there to have all that emotion, it's so great too, because it also informs the technical aspect, which you had mentioned, with making the actual video itself, with the shots or whatever, the lineup, just the feel of it. Because you don't want to, from a filmmaking standpoint, from a video standpoint, you don't obviously want to shoot stuff just to shoot it. Like, oh, this is pretty, let's just pop you here and we'll shoot here and go. It has to go hand in hand with the emotion, with the feeling, with what you're going through in that moment. And the audience needs to feel what you're going through in that moment as well. So it has to make sense and can't be arbitrary. With that said too, you have to, once you realize you're at the location, you realize what you want to portray, the best way to portray that, and then how to execute that. So it's all of those things coming together, which is interesting too, because like you said, it's kind of this guerrilla filmmaking, small crew getting together and doing it during the pandemic. But it's almost as if the intimacy of it was really beneficial for this shoot, you know, in terms of the actual production of it. Like just having our small band of weird people together, just shooting this thing and getting it done. It's like we needed to have that kind of small intimacy to do this, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, for me as a musician, I've always wanted to make movies, at least shorts, you know, a music video. And just to be able to, you know, create a storyline with you and just have it be so, you know, much more elaborate than I had ever done. I mean, I'd never done a 3-day video shoot. I mean, it was kind of bonkers when you think about it. I mean, I think the third shoot we had to reschedule because there was a blizzard or potential blizzard that day in early January. We were like, what else is gonna go wrong here, you know? So for me though, I was able to, you know, as an artist, just dive into some storylines and just some other, you know, emotional life. I don't know if you know, dare I say acting, but, you know, just something that I've, you know, done a bit, have been very interested in. My question to you is, how different was it for you making a music video versus, you know, one of your many films that you've made? Was there a big difference? And if so, what was it?
You know what the biggest difference at the outset was? When I am making my own film, it always follows the script first. So it's like, it's one of those things where I can visualize every single aspect of it prior to going into it, or at least try to. Sometimes you're successful, sometimes you're not. But with this one, it's different because I had the song to go off of. So music I think more so than any other art form, perhaps. I don't know, maybe painting, it's open to interpretation, but music itself is obviously open to interpretation, a lot of songs. So I have my own stuff I'm bringing into my visual as I'm listening to your song when we started. And then when I talk to you, we build off my interpretations, your feelings, and we just continue to build and build. And it was more collaborative than any other project I had with regard to pre-production. That was the biggest difference. With production, even on my short films, you're working with other people and the collaboration happens. But this one was different pre-production because I was able to build with somebody else, which I really, really liked that experience. And then to mention the whole thing, which was really cool to me, like the 3-day shoot on the music video, which we had time in between each shoot. Now, on other occasions, I've shot films like that where it's like sometimes in between shoot days. On other occasions, there's good and there's bad to that. And the bad would be too much time in between things. All of a sudden you start getting a little lag and the momentum goes or whatever. On this, that never happened because it felt like 3 short films coming together as one, and the energy never died off. And we had time to really continue to build and build. And that was one of the very few projects where I had a lot of time to consider what we needed to get done and how to get it done properly, which I loved.
Yeah, I also really loved having the space in between, especially, I think we did those first 2 shoots within 2 weeks of each other, but still, yeah, 2 weeks in between the 2 shoots. And then we had like 2 months until the 3rd shoot. And for me, that was also very helpful. You know, it could have gotten dangerous through the holidays, you know, but like right after New Year, we went and shot it. But it was nice to see those first 2 storylines, kind of what we had. And okay, now what is this other 3rd rail that we're looking for? And I remember like I wanted to just look very different for each of them, like without looking completely disjointed. Like it's obviously still me,
Right.
but I remember for that 3rd one, I was like, I need to cut my hair. I need to cut some bangs. Like we need to like go in there.
Right.
And there was just this freshness about that last shoot in the industrial space. And we had Wes Kleinig from my band be the, you know, the shrouded hooded figure, you know, who kind of like ran through and like chasing after me. And that industrial space was pretty incredible that we were in, and just all the stuff that was there. There's like this mountain that we're inside. And what's cool is one of the interpretations, and maybe you already meant to do this on purpose, was I had some feedback that people thought that mountain was inside the waterfall. I was inside, which I'm sure was like deliberate, but
Mhm.
I didn't quite see it that way. I was a little too close to it, and then I was like, oh, maybe I am inside the waterfall. Like it was just very cool. It was such a pleasure making the video with you, and I think the storylines came through very strongly, and International Film Festival, it's up for a consideration for an award.
Yes, yes. It won the video itself won the bronze. Man, I hate myself. I can't remember the name of the festival right now, but it won the bronze at the video. And
We'll
then
put it in the
it's
credits.
what happened?
We'll put it in the credits.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. And then it's up for a couple more down the pipeline. So hopefully it keeps rolling and people keep responding to it.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, it's one of my favorite videos I've ever made. If not, you know, it's definitely top two. And I really appreciate all the hard work you put into it and lending all your talent and grace. And can't wait to do more, my friend.
Me too. I can't wait.
Awesome. Is there anything that you'd like to share? Anything new you're working on, or?
We'll see. There's always craziness.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you continue to just churn out great work, and I'm really proud to call you a collaborator and friend. And I can't wait to see
Oh,
what you'll do.
thank you. Me too. I feel the same way.
Cheers. Appreciate it.
All right.
All right, Jeff. You take care. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Later.
Later.